Hello and welcome to 3D Hero. This is a video series where we're modeling the automatic Kalashnikov rifle, and this is as far as we've gone. On the previous videos, we modeled various components of the gun. We started by modeling the main body, and then the handle, the magazine, and the butt, as well as the first section, the lower section of the muzzle area. And so we will move on to making the upper section of the muzzle area, and then after that we will do the fine tuning. So with no further ado, let's open the reference image and carry on with this tutorial. I hope it's not going to take a long time. So this is a much shorter component than the previous one, and it's less complex because it's fairly straight. Well, it's got a little bit of a curvature at the front, and also the other one has got that as well. We'll try to copy this instead of this. It looks better that way, I think. And also the gaps will be easier for us to model because it was we're going to just copy the details from the bottom section. What I realized while I was looking at the model that we've got so far is that this area is really longer. It's actually the longest part that we've got on this upper section of the muzzle. So we're going to reshape that a little bit in order to make sure that we do not mess up with the components proportions as we move forward. So let's go back to Subdivformer. Just going to close my file manager. And by the way, I cleared some memory from my file, but I still find that Subdivformer is misbehaving. Don't know why. I'll have to look into that later. But for now, let's see what we can do with this. Actually, the length that I was looking at seems to be upheld. I'm having a challenge modeling from the opposite side, but it does not really seem bad at all. Yeah, so this space is really bigger than this, while on the reference image I think they're nearly the same size. Let's have a look at that. They're nearly the same size, if not the same size. Actually, they are the same size fairly. So I'm just going to go back to Subdivformer and see what to do about that. Basically, select the front faces and push them back a little bit, and then we'll be good. We'll be good to go. We'll be going to the other components of the gun, which is the upper section of this area. So after selecting those two pieces, just say increase, and select these other faces here and say increase. I will have to eyeball them, comparing them to, we'll have to eyeball this gap, comparing it to the butt area in order to make sure that they're the same length. So move it along the x-axis, right there. Yeah, I believe that's fairly done. Just select those faces. Save the progress. Really fond of doing it, even in documents. Sorry, that was not required. So we're going to go to modeling the next component here. So we'll go to add a sphere, my favorite. We'll select it and tap region to select the entire object. Just move to the side view. I'll move it forward along the x-axis, and then I think that's fair. Just select that. Subdivide the back face. Subdivide it, and also subdivide the face of the front. Good. Okay, before subdividing that, I think I should just move it a little further forward. But there is some reference that we've got to do, so let's just go to our photos again and see. So the small component, the upper component of the muzzle is shorter than the other one. It ends nearly after the gap here at the back side. It's really important to make sure you maintain that detail, because it's even on the other gun, it's right there. So let's go back to the other image and see how it looks before we move forward. Okay, so let's model this area. Good. There it goes. 3D modeling app, Subdivformer. Shut down the axis. Okay, so we're going to scale the entire components down, scaling it on all axes. Transform, scale all axes selected, and so that seems fair. Let's have a look at it from the top area. Move it along the y-axis, right above the one below it, and zoom in. See that we're doing the right thing, scaling it a little farther along all axes, and I think that's fair. So I deselect all the faces. Okay, let's move it forward. Actually, we're going to make it. We're going to model it backwards. Right there. Which means that the face of the front I should have subdivided, but it's okay, because we're going to do it right now. Go to shape and subdivide. Select region. Move it along the x-axis. Let's turn it to the side here. Let's see what we're doing here. Okay, let's move it upwards first a little bit along the z-axis, right there. Okay. I'm really anxious to see how it's going to be when we're assembling the gun, because all of these components really have to be in place, and they're not, for now they're not. So I'm really anxious to see how it's gonna look when we get to that point where we have to move everything into place and make the gun finally look as it is supposed to look. It's always a little bit of a challenge trying to move these things towards where they're really supposed to be, so I think I'm gonna leave it at that, but I'll drag it higher above a little bit because of a few components that we'll be modeling. So get back to perspective view, and then select the faces at the back. There. No, sorry. The faces at the back. Tap increase and back to this view. Drag it all the way backwards to where that section ends, and have to really add ball of select. Okay, drag it backwards along the x-axis again, somewhere like there. Okay, so just select that face, all those faces, go back, and this is what we have in our hands right now. So select the strip, subdivide, scale along the x-axis, move it forward, right there. Again, scale it along the x-axis. Right here is where we have to zoom. Move it along the x-axis, and that seems to be in place. Because again, select the strip and move it along the x-axis. Really nasty. Okay, again. There. Okay, so we're gonna select the other strip and do the same to it. Subdivide and scale it. So subdivide, scale along the x-axis. This one seems to be falling in place with the other one right below it. Seems to be matching really nicely. In order to make sure that we're not preempting it and ending up with some really inaccurate proportions, let's just eyeball it. Okay, so move it along the x-axis a little bit. Okay, select the entire strip and move it just a little bit backwards along the x-axis. I think that will do. So once again, we're going to do what we did to the previous shape down below, which is to make it look flatter. So what we will do is we will select all the faces at the bottom of this area. Okay, I just realized that the gun has some weird creases on the sides of the lower component on the wooden section that forms the muzzle. So we're going to scale it down along the y-axis. So I'll select the entire strip and select the other parts of the gun. Okay, before I do that, let's see. Yeah, we're gonna have to do that. So we'll select all of them. Just want to get rid of the crease right there, because it does not look good at all. Select all of these faces, and even the ones at the bottom of it. Including this tiny one. So I just realized that that crease there and does not look good. So something has got to be done about it. So we're going to transform it by scaling it along the y-axis. Oh, bloody hell. We'll work on that later. So, another way, a better way would be to select the components themselves from right here. Okay, we'll work on that later. Perhaps there's something better we can do about it than reshaping it that way. So I'll select this strip here. I'll have to split it because I do not want it to look weird. We're going to have to extrude some parts of it, so we have to make sure it does not look weird. So I'll select the face at the bottom here and select this face here right there, and then extrude. Woo! Weird. Undo. We'll undo that. So what's causing it to be weird is because we have a little crease in here. After splitting it, we had something weird happen to the model with the head of the contour. Okay, so what happened is that we have some really sharp edge here, which means that some a few edges are in the same position with each other, so that's why we're having that challenge. So I'll just move it along the x-axis in order to find a way to fine tune it without looking weird. There you see, right there, right there. So I'll just leave it at that and just deselect those faces. Let's start shaping it again and see what happens to us. Start with the ones at the back. I think they look easier to work with for now. We're going to move them up. Move them up along the z-axis. Oh, right there. Is it? Right there. Is it? Okay. See how it looks from the side view. Yeah, it really is where they're supposed to go to, but we have to do a little more fine tuning to make sure they're all in place. But something weird is going on. Just realized my face was not selected, so it just looked really not good. Oh yeah, not good. So once again I'll have to select those faces. These tiny faces can really do something to you. Something really not good. You can see oh, I decided it was not selected either. So we're going to subdivide the bottom side of it. So let's go to shape and subdivide to make it flat. It'll be easier to work with that way. Just select all the faces and select this back face. So, yeah, select that little face. Modeling in between objects can be really tricky here, but let's carry on with it. We can manage this. Okay, select that and that other area, and so let's move to the side view and see what happens when we extrude all of them. Move them all into position. Shape, extrude. Woohoo! They look really weird, so undo. We'll have to extrude them individually. This video has been long already. Okay, so extrude that. Move it up along the z-axis. The side view, of course, activated. Okay. Move along the z-axis. I think that's good enough. Getting something weird here, but we're going to work on that later. So let's work on the back side now before we work on the front side. And what I realized on the back side is that it's extended way further than the one of the reference image is. So let's have a peek at it again and see. So the difference is that with my model, this section is way back over here, while it's supposed to be here. So I have to make it shorter. And so let's go back there. Subdivformer. Gladly it's not misbehaved. So we're going to select all the back faces here. This is what I was talking about, so you can look at it from the side view. What the hell is going on? Okay, right here. So if you have a look at it, you'd realize that it's extended way beyond where it's supposed to be. Well, it's supposed to be ending somewhere here. So let's correct that before we move forward. right there. 1, 2 faces. Increase, and let's go to the side view. And eyeball it into position. Transform, move along the x-axis. Forward. Oop. Forward. Yeah, there it is. That's where it's supposed to go. Select all the faces. Back to perspective view, and select the back faces to extrude right now. 1. Shape and extrude. Transform it by moving it along the z-axis. Seems fair. To select that and select the other faces at the front. Back to perspective view. 1, 2. Extrude. It's gonna look a bit funny. Let's go ahead and do it there. So let's get back to the side view. And transform it by scaling it along the x-axis first to avoid the weirdness. Let's also align it along the z-axis, somewhere as we did with the one at the bottom of it, and move it along the x-axis. It really looks weird right now, but we'll get that sorted. Okay, let's zoom it in again, and now let's do what? Let's move it up a little bit along the z-axis. I think that's it. And so something else I've realized is that the middle section really is not the same size as the one that we have at the bottom. So that we will work on right now. We'll scale along the y-axis. Okay, transform, scale, select y-axis, x-axis I meant. Move it along the x-axis. Oops. Okay, right there. Whoa. Zoom in. Scale it again and see what happens. Good. So something else has got to be corrected before we move forward, and that is this face here, which is making everything look different here. Not that, the one in front of it. Yeah, that one. So we're gonna move it into position again. So move it along the x-axis. Oof, yeah, right there. Right there. Weirdly, it looks to be in position, but then something else has got to be changed here. So, well, we've been going on for the last 25 minutes and something has got to be done. got to finish this and now move on to the next sections. Select that edge. Often I do not work with selecting edges unless we're working on details, or unless I have to, like in this instance. Right there. Edges can be really hard to select. So let's work by selecting the face and scaling it along the x-axis. Okay. Scale it along the x-axis. Move it back a little bit along the x-axis. Now here we have to work with more precision, so side view is going to come in handy. Okay, so just also realize that it's a little problematic thing to look at. Ooh. Okay, so I know what we're going to do about this. It's going to be smarter than us. So we're going to move it along the x-axis forward. Yeah, that does. Okay. I think these are sections where details have been met completely, so we will not have to worry so much about them like we will about the other sections. So we're going to subdivide these areas just to make sure that they are flat and good looking. And subdivide. Okay, so there we go. Before we end this video, I'm just going to subdivide a few other areas to make it fairly looking to the eye. Okay. Fairly good looking. Okay. So the video has been going on for the last 27 minutes and it's time I end it. We're going to work on the other sections of this gun much later. Actually, I'm losing my voice right now. So there we go, our automatic Kalashnikov rifle. All the components seem to be made up, but I've got to end this video here. So let's catch up on the next clip in order to carry on with the muzzle and the small pieces before we assemble our automatic Kalashnikov rifle and shelve it for future use. I mean the model. Okay then, thank you very much for watching. Let's meet on the next video.